In the heart of a prestigious neighborhood where opulence and elegance were as commonplace as the morning sun, there arrived a man of humble demeanor, yet of significant means. Ricardo, a figure of both ambition and resilience, had at long last acquired the residence of his dreams. It was a grand estate, the kind that spoke of old wealth and untold stories, now to be graced by his presence. On a crisp morning, as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the trees, Ricardo approached his new home with a heart full of hope and excitement. Yet the serenity of his arrival was to be marred by an unfortunate turn of events. As Ricardo began to unload his belongings, he was met with wary and suspicious eyes from his new neighbors. These eyes, peering from behind finely manicured hedges and ornate windows, were filled not with welcome, but with the cold chill of distrust. Whispers, carried on the soft morning breeze, soon became more insistent. Ricardo, with his dignified bearing and composed demeanor, continued his task, attempting to ignore the growing discomfort that surrounded him. The neighbors, unable to reconcile the man with their preconceptions, conspired to scrutinize his every move. It was not long before their unease took a more alarming turn. A call was made to the authorities, under the pretense of a grave concern. The neighbors, clutching their opulent robes as if they could shield them from their own prejudice, reported Ricardo as an intruder, an unwelcome presence in their midst. The arrival of the police was swift, their sirens cutting through the peaceful morning air, a herald of discord. Ricardo, caught unawares by the sudden escalation, faced the officers with a calm exterior that masked the turmoil within. He produced the documents proving his ownership, his hands trembling slightly as he presented the evidence. Yet the officers, influenced by the prejudices of those who had summoned them, regarded him with skepticism rather than relief. The situation grew increasingly tense. Ricardo's explanations fell on deaf ears, and his patience began to wear thin. The neighbors' accusations hung in the air like a shroud, casting a long shadow over his otherwise joyous occasion. The officers, swayed by the collective distrust of the community, questioned Ricardo with an air of condescension. The climax of this unfortunate episode came with the arrival of the real estate agent. The agent, bearing the necessary documentation and confirmation of Ricardo's rightful ownership, finally dispelled the cloud of suspicion. Yet the damage inflicted upon Ricardo's dignity was palpable. The morning that had begun with such promise ended in a bitter lesson on the harsh realities of prejudice. As Ricardo surveyed the scene, his heart was heavy with the weight of injustice. His new home, a place that should have been a sanctuary, had become the stage for a disheartening display of intolerance. This first day, meant to mark the beginning of a new chapter, instead became a painful reminder of the barriers that still lingered in society's most exclusive enclaves. Ricardo, deeply affected by the events of the morning, retreated into the sanctuary of his new home. The grandeur of the estate, once a symbol of accomplishment and promise, now seemed a hollow backdrop to his sense of betrayal. His heart, burdened by the weight of prejudice, struggled to find solace in the opulence that surrounded him. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the mansion's marble floors as Ricardo and his wife Maria convened in the drawing room. Their faces, pale from the morning's ordeal, spoke of unspoken pain and shared resolve. Maria's eyes, usually bright with the joy of their new beginning, were clouded with concern. She reached for Ricardo's hand, her touch a silent plea for strength and unity. In hushed tones, they discussed the events that had unfolded, the weight of the neighbors' suspicion, the unyielding disdain from the police, and the overarching sense of injustice created a palpable tension between them. Ricardo, though typically composed, could not mask the hurt and anger that simmered beneath his surface. He recounted the way the police had treated him, their faces implacable, their manner dismissive. Determined not to let this grievous act go unchallenged, Ricardo resolved to seek justice. He spoke with a steely resolve, his voice unwavering despite the turmoil that lay within. "We cannot allow this to stand," he said, his words ringing with the conviction of one who has been wronged. Maria nodded, her eyes reflecting a mixture of support and apprehension. They both knew that the path ahead would be fraught with difficulty, but they were united in their resolve. That evening, Ricardo made inquiries about legal representation. He sought out a lawyer renowned for fighting cases of racial discrimination. His choice was deliberate. He needed someone who not only understood the law, but also the subtle nuances of bias and prejudice. Ricardo spent hours researching and consulting, his determination unwavering despite the weight of the day's events. Meanwhile, the story of Ricardo's plight began to seep into the wider community. Local news outlets picked up the story, casting a spotlight on the incident and amplifying the voices of those who had been marginalized. The media coverage, though distressing, also served to gather support from various quarters. Advocacy groups reached out, offering resources and solidarity, their presence a beacon of hope amidst the darkness. As the days passed, Ricardo and Maria faced the mounting stress of the legal process. The weight of public scrutiny, combined with the emotional toll of their ordeal, took its toll. Yet Ricardo's resolve did not waver. He and Maria attended meetings with their lawyer, gathering evidence and preparing for the legal battle ahead. Each step, though arduous, was a step towards reclaiming their dignity and challenging the prejudices they had faced. In the quiet moments of the night, Ricardo and Maria found solace in their shared purpose. They spoke of their hopes for the future, their dreams of a community where such injustices would no longer be tolerated. Their resolve strengthened with each passing day, their determination to seek justice becoming a driving force that overshadowed their initial despair. Thus, with the dawn of each new day, Ricardo and Maria prepared to confront the forces that had wronged them. They faced their struggle not with bitterness, but with a steadfast commitment to justice and equality. Their journey, though just beginning, promised to be one of courage and resilience, a testament to their unwavering spirit in the face of adversity. The days that followed Ricardo's tumultuous first day in his new home were marked by an ever-increasing intensity. The legal proceedings now set into motion loomed large over Ricardo and Maria. Each morning, as the sun cast its light upon the grand estate, it illuminated not only the beauty of their surroundings, but also the shadow of their impending battle. Ricardo's quest for justice began with a series of consultations with a highly regarded attorney. The lawyer, known for his expertise in civil rights cases, welcomed Ricardo and Maria into his office, a place adorned with the accolades of past victories and the weight of many battles fought. The initial meeting was a critical step where Ricardo detailed the events of that fateful morning, and the lawyer, with keen attention, absorbed every nuance of their story. The lawyer's office, though professional, was a stark contrast to the tranquility of Ricardo's new home. It was filled with the rustle of papers, the hum of a computer, and the focused energy of legal work. Ricardo and Maria sat across from the lawyer, their faces etched with both hope and anxiety. The lawyer listened intently, his expression a mixture of concern and determination. After thoroughly reviewing the case, the lawyer laid out a strategy. The approach was methodical: to gather evidence, interview witnesses, and build a compelling argument against the neighbors and the local authorities. He emphasized the importance of documenting every detail and maintaining a clear narrative of the discrimination Ricardo had faced. Ricardo and Maria began the arduous task of collecting evidence. They compiled all necessary documents, from the proof of Ricardo's property ownership to records of the police report. They also sought out the neighbors who had witnessed the incident. These witnesses, who had observed the wrongful treatment but had remained silent, were approached in hopes of securing their testimonies. The media coverage of Ricardo's case grew, with various news outlets and journalists eager to cover the unfolding drama. The press portrayed Ricardo's story with a blend of sympathy and scrutiny, capturing the essence of his plight and amplifying the call for justice. The media spotlight, while raising public awareness, also added pressure to the ongoing legal proceedings. As the legal battle progressed, Ricardo and Maria faced mounting public scrutiny. They were thrust into the limelight, their personal lives exposed and examined by a curious public. Despite this, they remained steadfast, their resolve to see justice served unwavering. Ricardo's steadfastness was matched by Maria's quiet strength, as she supported him through every step of the process. In the courtroom, the atmosphere was tense. The prosecutor presented the case with a focus on the racial prejudices that had driven the neighbors to act against Ricardo. Evidence was laid bare, showcasing the wrongful accusations and the ensuing humiliation. Ricardo's lawyer made a compelling case, arguing that the treatment Ricardo received was not only unjust, but rooted in a deep-seated prejudice that had no place in their community. Each day in court was a test of patience and endurance. Ricardo and Maria found themselves navigating a complex web of legal arguments and emotional strain, yet they were buoyed by their belief in the righteousness of their cause and the hope that their struggle would lead to meaningful change. As the chapter of this legal journey unfolded, Ricardo and Maria stood united, their shared commitment to justice a beacon of hope amidst the challenges they faced. Their story, marked by adversity and resolve, began to resonate beyond the confines of their immediate struggle, sparking conversations about racial equality and the power of standing up against discrimination. The courtroom drama reached its zenith as the trial entered its critical phase. The atmosphere inside the hallowed halls of justice was charged with a palpable tension, each day bringing new revelations and a deepening scrutiny. Ricardo and Maria, though weary from their ordeal, found a renewed sense of purpose as they prepared for the next stage of their legal battle. Ricardo's lawyer, a figure of eloquence and resolve, meticulously presented the case to the court. With every argument, he dismantled the neighbors' claims, revealing the prejudiced motivations behind their accusations. The lawyer highlighted the profound disparity between the treatment Ricardo had received and the inherent rights guaranteed to every citizen. The trial unfolded as a spectacle of opposing forces. The neighbors, once confident in their positions, now faced the weight of Ricardo's compelling evidence. They attempted to defend their actions with claims of protecting their community, but their justifications were undermined by the stark reality of their discriminatory behavior. The defense's attempts to downplay the racial elements of the case fell flat against the mounting evidence of bias. Witnesses took the stand, their testimonies weaving a narrative of prejudice and injustice. Some neighbors who had been skeptical about Ricardo's presence now spoke candidly about their initial reactions and the underlying biases that influenced their actions. These testimonies, though difficult to hear, were crucial in painting a clear picture of the discrimination Ricardo had faced. The courtroom was a stage where the very essence of justice was debated. Ricardo's composure under pressure was a testament to his inner strength, while Maria's unwavering support was a pillar of his endurance. The couple's resolve was mirrored by their legal team's relentless pursuit of the truth. The trial drew the attention of the public and the media, further amplifying the case. News reporters and journalists documented the proceedings with fervor, capturing the essence of Ricardo's struggle and the broader implications of the case. The media coverage, while intense, played a crucial role in maintaining public interest and support for Ricardo's quest for justice. As the prosecution and defense presented their final arguments, the tension in the courtroom reached a fever pitch. The prosecutor delivered a poignant closing statement, emphasizing the need for justice not only for Ricardo but also for the principles of equality and fairness. His words resonated with the gravity of the situation, leaving an indelible mark on the proceedings. Ricardo and Maria, though exhausted, remained hopeful as they awaited the verdict. Their personal experiences, now laid bare for all to see, had become a symbol of the fight against discrimination. The trial had become more than just a legal battle. It was a reflection of society's ongoing struggle with prejudice and inequality. The days leading up to the verdict were filled with a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. Ricardo and Maria reflected on their journey, their thoughts intermingling with the hope for a just resolution. They found solace in the support of their community, who rallied around them, offering words of encouragement and solidarity. Finally, the day of the verdict arrived, marking a pivotal moment in Ricardo's quest for justice. The courtroom was abuzz with expectation as the judge prepared to announce the decision. The outcome of the trial, a culmination of all the evidence and arguments presented, would determine not only Ricardo's fate, but also the broader implications for the fight against racial discrimination. As the judge's voice echoed through the courtroom, Ricardo and Maria held their breath, their hearts intertwined with the hope for a just resolution. The verdict would ultimately define the success of their struggle and the promise of change that lay ahead. The verdict was delivered with a gravity that resonated throughout the courtroom. As the judge's words echoed in the hushed space, a mixture of relief and apprehension swept over Ricardo and Maria. The ruling was in their favor, a significant victory that validated their claims and acknowledged the prejudice they had endured. The judge's decision not only granted them compensation, but also mandated that the neighbors publicly acknowledge their wrongdoing. The courtroom, once a battleground of contention, transformed into a place of triumph and resolution. Ricardo and Maria exchanged glances, their faces reflecting a deep sense of vindication. Their fight for justice had yielded a tangible result, yet the journey was far from over. The victory in court was but one step in a broader mission to address the issues of racial discrimination and community harmony. As the legal proceedings concluded, the real work of rebuilding and healing began. Ricardo, now with a sense of purpose and a renewed vigor, turned his attention to the community. He sought to use the compensation awarded to them as a means to effect positive change. His vision extended beyond personal vindication. He aimed to foster a spirit of inclusivity and understanding within the neighborhood. Ricardo and Maria engaged with community leaders, holding meetings and discussions about their plans for improvement. They proposed initiatives to address the underlying issues of prejudice and to promote a culture of acceptance. Their approach was comprehensive, focusing on education, outreach, and dialogue. The goal was to transform the neighborhood into a place where diversity was celebrated and where the values of equality and respect were upheld. The neighbors, though initially resistant, were gradually confronted with the reality of their actions. The public acknowledgement of their wrongdoing was a step towards accountability. Some of them, having witnessed the impact of Ricardo's initiatives, began to reconsider their attitudes and engage in conversations about change. Ricardo and Maria organized community events designed to bridge gaps and foster mutual understanding. These gatherings included workshops, forums, and cultural celebrations, all aimed at breaking down barriers and building connections. The events were met with a cautious optimism as residents slowly began to participate and engage with the new initiatives. Despite the progress, challenges remained. The road to reconciliation was paved with both successes and setbacks. There were moments of resistance and skepticism, but Ricardo and Maria remained steadfast in their commitment. Their efforts to build a more inclusive community were not without difficulty, but they persevered, driven by the belief that change was possible. The media, which had once focused on the trial, now turned its attention to the positive developments in the neighborhood. Reports highlighted the transformation occurring within the community and the role that Ricardo and Maria played in spearheading this change. The coverage served as a reminder of the impact that individuals could have in addressing systemic issues and promoting social justice. As the months passed, the neighborhood began to reflect the fruits of Ricardo and Maria's labor. The once contentious area was now a place where diversity was acknowledged and celebrated. The initiatives they had implemented were beginning to take root, creating a more inclusive and harmonious environment. Ricardo and Maria's journey, marked by their struggle for justice and their efforts to foster change, became a powerful testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Their story, filled with both adversity and triumph, served as an inspiration to others facing similar challenges. The legacy of their efforts would continue to shape the community for years to come, a lasting reminder of the power of perseverance and the pursuit of equality.